Hey guys, how's it going? You guys know the drill. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below. Alrighty, today I wanted to get into this topic, and it's sports cards pumping and dumping. Most of you guys know what pumping and dumping is, but I'm just going to talk about how it goes on in the stock market, and then I'll get into the sports cards. So I noticed there are a bunch of these organizations, they have huge subscriber lists and then they tell their subscribers about crappy stocks. They're like, "Oh my god, this stock is going to be the next best thing in the technology sector, or the best next miner, gold miner, or silver miner." And guess what? Look at their top line growth. Their top line growth did fantastic last year, and we expect it to continue to see better revenue growth throughout the next few years. And they go on and on and on about why it's a good stock when in reality it's a crappy stock. And what happens is these organizations, they buy a bunch of these stocks in their personal accounts and their, corporate account, and then they just make that small disclosure, we have some of this stock and we plan to sell it at one moment. We don't know when, or something like that. They just cover their rear ends so the SEC doesn't go after them. And then all of a sudden, you may see some of these stocks, they just spike up like crazy. And it's their subscribers that bought up the stock because they saw, hey, this organization said it was a good stock. And then in that spike up, it's the organization, it's the owners that are just selling the stocks. And I would consider that hanky panky behavior. It's more of the line of fraud, but it's perfectly legal. But you have to remember, stock market is regulated, and the sports card market though is not regulated at all. So what you could do is you could tout this. I'm just going to give you an example. Suppose you had a Manny Machado card, a great card, and you're just going on about it like, oh, this Manny Machado card, you got to get it, you got to buy it, it's dirt cheap, look it on eBay, there's a slight dip. And then you have maybe hundreds of subscribers. And there's this one YouTuber that does have hundreds of subscribers based on what I've seen. Paid, by the way. Paid subscribers outside of YouTube. And then what happens is he pumps these graded cards up, and you don't know. Even if he doesn't post it on his eBay, he may have sent it to a consignment company, maybe like Probstein or PWCC, and he knows that it's going to come to auction. And because these subscribers see that same card, they may be like, oh man, I got to buy it because this dude said it's going to go up. And then he may say a week later, like, hey, look, I made a great call because this card went up 30% in 1 week or whatever. Like, he could say something along the lines of that. And it's hard to detect whether it was actually him that was actually selling the card. So there's sneaky ways you could get around it. I'm not saying he does it, but I would not be surprised. But at the same time, we don't know what card or cards that guy has. We don't know if his intention is to sell it right away. And this is actually one of the issues in the sports card market, where there's no regulation. You don't need to disclose what you have. And some people are like, hey, I don't want no government regulation. People still commit fraud in the financial industry, and that's a valid point. Now, that being said, when you don't have this regulation, we have to be careful in just using hype to buy a card. Just because you see a few guys on YouTube saying, oh man, you got to buy it, you got to buy it. Do they have that card? Are they unloading that card? They may not unload it on their eBay account just to cover their end. They may have sent it to a consignment company. So that's one thing that I'm noting. Earlier this year, we had Gary Vee talking about sports cards a lot, and that he suddenly stopped talking about it after Vegas did a video about him. But long story short, Michael Jordan cards were $700,000. Some people may be like, was he pumping and dumping at that moment? Because, that card was $18,000 and it sold for $750,000. The latest auctions were what, $288,000. Now, I'm not accusing Gary Vee of pumping and dumping, but what I'm saying is we have individuals that have thousands of subscribers, and they're saying like this is a great investment, this is something you should get into. And I think most people have the decency or common sense not to buy something just because an influencer on YouTube is saying it, or just because a guy is saying this is a great investment. But there are definitely people that are blowing their money like crazy, and it's unfortunate because that's what happens with some of these guys. They get stuck in a card. They may have bought it at, like the MJ Fleer 86. They may have bought it at $786,000. Now they're left holding the bag. Granted, you must have a lot of money if you can spend $780,000. I don't think those guys are going to have money problems. But remember with NBA Top Shot, you had all these influencers, pumping up NBA Top Shot. And I did a video and I got ratioed. I got 63 dislikes on that video. And all I said was, I'm avoiding it like the plague. And at that moment, getting into NBA Top Shot was a horrible idea. And then I was just asking myself, and I asked the audience, are these guys getting paid to pump it up? Is there some sort of conflict of interest? And the way that I operate is I never trust the crowd. I don't get into the hype because I've gotten burned many times about it. And on top of it, if someone has a paid subscriber site, the thing is there any conflict of interest involved? That's the number one thing that I look at. We know there's no government regulation. So now, once again, we have to use our investigative skills to be like, okay, what's this guy doing? Is this guy trying to hose his subscribers? Is he trying to school some newbies? Is he trying to be a scam artist? Is he trying to, fool a bunch of these guys, paying him money on a monthly basis? So, those are things that I look at. Once again, I don't trust these guys. And especially the thing is, I don't like some of these slick talkers that are young and act like they have all of this experience when they haven't gone through a downturn. So there's nothing wrong in making money. And if you make money and if you're young, I give you a round of applause. That's great. But most of you guys have not been through a hard crash. You guys are probably, toddlers. Not toddlers, but you may have been in elementary school when the real estate bubble crashed. I remember it vividly. I was too young to remember the tech bubble crashing, but a lot of people are saying that this tech bubble crash is similar to what's going to happen in sports cars. Now, we shall see in the coming years, but I expect a hard landing. So, once again, I personally don't want to take advice from guys using hyperbole that are younger, no offense, and on top of it have not been through a crash. I want to listen to guys, number one, that don't have a conflict of interest. And if you're young and you don't have a conflict of interest, that's great. I do listen to some guys that are younger than me, about 10 years younger than me. That's great. That's fine. So I don't want to completely bash young guys here because I know there's some young guys that watch my content. All I'm trying to say is that I want to listen to a guy that has lost a ton of money. It doesn't need to be in sports cars, but has had a humble experience, that knows the ins and outs of buying low and selling high. One of the guys I brought on earlier this year was Don. And he's been through a crash. He told me personally, maybe years ago, that he lost a lot of money during the tech bubble. He lost money in different ventures as well. And, he's made some great calls, when I used to follow him, with the silver market and also the stock market. So, long story short, you guys need to be skeptical when you're listening to guys that may have a potential conflict of interest. I'm not saying they are scamming you guys, but there could be a greater possibility, especially when they have some paid content out there. We don't know if they're pumping and dumping. I know there's one other company. This guy says that, when we make our recommendations, we make sure whoever's saying that does not have that card. So at least that company is making a good decision and saying, okay, we don't want to avoid conflict of interest. It's not a good rep on us. We don't want to be viewed as, fraudsters and hucksters and whatever you want to say. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think there's some content creators that are pumping and dumping? Let me know. Let me know who you think it is, and I'll talk to you guys later. Once again, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below. Thanks, guys. Bye.